We will continue Overreaction Tuesday in rapid fire. Jesse, are you ready for rapid fire?
I'm ready.
Take it easy on your microphone. It sounds like you've been trying to beat up your microphone over there
I'm just fired
today.
up today. It's Overreaction Tuesday.
Yeah, baby. Stymie says field goal unit is a disaster. Is that enough of an overreaction?
Hey, with the sample size, I don't think so. It was only one field goal and he missed it.
I think it's a little bit of an overreaction myself. It's like, calm down. I do want to see the guy, Schrader go out there and kick a field goal when it counts. It would like I was thinking about it when it happened. It's almost like bringing a closer into a non-save situation, right? Like you still want to see that guy go out there and throw strikes. You're a kicker. You want to see him go out there and kick that field goal no matter what the situation is. Hopefully, the stakes don't have to be high for him to do it. You want to see him get a little confidence, get that first kick out of his way in a Notre Dame uniform. But at the same time, you don't want to see field goals this Saturday, right? You didn't want to see field goals last week either, the way things are going. And it was a little bit ironic that the only field goal situation that came up for Notre Dame last week was when they had the ball in plus territory to start the possession. They started off at the Navy 36-yard line, and then they end up having to settle for a field goal that they're not even able to kick. So Lance Hab, applying my overreaction to this week against Tennessee State. Notre Dame defense will have 8 or more sacks this week. That is a lot.
Per possession.
That is a lot.
I'd say 5. Give me a solid 5.
I'm in the 6 range, I think. That's a good one though. I like that. I like that a lot. We'll come back to a couple here in a little bit. Marcus Freeman's changing the team's weekly schedule a bit in his second season. They practiced on Sunday, had Monday off last year, but they're flip-flopping it this year. It's going to look a little bit different this year, and here's his explanation as to why.
Science, player feedback. Now, some of them are kind of, some they like it, some like the Sunday practice, some didn't. So I don't take too much into that. But it's ultimately, I have to just make a decision what I think is best for Saturday. And each place is different. And that's probably the biggest thing I've learned in a year of experience is you can't just take a plan and say it worked for me as a player or it worked at a previous place I was at and it's going to work at Notre Dame, right? You got to take in consideration what they're asked to do on a Monday here compared to what it was like somewhere else. And so that's kind of the biggest things. I wanted them to truly have a day off on paper, like you get one day off, but I wanted them to be able to, take Sunday and really work academically, and you don't have anything mandatory from us on Sunday. Like academics are so important. They have to have time to really work at that, and also the lifting part of what we're asking them to do. So a lot of things went into that decision. It's not just one thing. A lot of things went to that decision, I think.
So a lot of things went into the decision. What do you think about making that little subtle move?
Last year I was actually pretty surprised when I heard that Marcus Freeman was going to be having practices on Sunday because when I played, and again, it wasn't at the level of Notre Dame or anything, but to me, it was a common kind of trend that I noticed, no matter the level was, Sundays were off. It allowed for, the body to recover after a long game. And then to me, another aspect of it is, as a head coach and a coaching staff, how much preparation can you actually get done between end of game Saturday and by the time practice starts on Sunday, right? Because you want, at that point, you've already moved on to the next week, right? And so to me, it's how much as a head coach can you have prepared if you're going to have a legit practice, right? Like a week, an actual practice that is going towards Tennessee State in this case, how much can you actually have prepared by Sunday that is actually, that is going to be legitimately beneficial for your preparation in Tennessee State? So that always kind of confused me. And I think Marcus Freeman brings up another good point here of the academics, right? Like that's the end of the week. It's the beginning of the academic week or the school week. And so a lot of these guys need to get caught up on Sunday, right? Classes start again on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I think the academics is a big part, something that I didn't actually take into consideration for a lot of these guys is, getting their work kind of prepared or caught up, for the week after a long weekend. And then the last thing I'll say is just the overall recovery. It didn't really make sense because when you're playing on Saturday, a full game, and going into Sunday, it was always, light jogging, a little bit of lifting, just stuff to kind of really help your muscles kind of recover. And I think that's what you're going to see more so on Sundays now, is a little bit of, lifting, a little bit of maybe, light jogging or cardio. And then they'll get into the film room and kind of break down and dissect, what happened on Sunday. Or Saturday. So I think logistically, it makes a ton more sense. And I think maybe another thing that could have played into it is, you don't want your guys going out partying too hard after a win on Saturday night. You want them to be accountable on Sunday. And that's the number one thing to hold young guys accountable, is giving them an early alarm and making them kind of show up somewhere, knowing, that what goes on after games on Saturdays.
But personally, I think they work hard all week. If they get a win on Saturday, they deserve to go. They're still college students. Go to their party or whatever it is that they're going to do, and like the recovery piece is the biggest thing, because I would have thought that whether it's ice baths or massages or, like you said, a light jog or whatever it happens to be, after you're going out there and getting in all those car crashes all day Saturday afternoon, I would think that you would go to the chiropractor, whatever it is. I would think that you would want to let the body kind of recover a little bit on Sunday, not have to worry about any of the physical stuff. And they're making the change this year. So they obviously, as he said, some science went into it, some player input went into it, some other things, the academic aspect went into it as well. So I think it's going to be a good move for them ultimately. And
I always found it funny on our Sunday practices. We always did about 30 minutes of cardio, and it was called the X drill. You would jog the sidelines and then sprint corner to corner, jog the sideline, sprint corner to corner. So you're making an X across the football field. And let's just say it was very obvious the guys that had a little fun the night before. And it came to the point where they started
Did they leave a trail? They
started removing trash cans from the sideline because,
Oh, man. Sounds like more than a little fun that was being had out there. Goodness. Fill in the blank. It's blank. Paul Finebaum says Notre Dame is a pretender, not a contender, saying their schedule is too tough and is going to do them in.
It's typical. It's pre-recorded. It's the same thing over and over again with Paul Finebaum. Like, I get it. What has Notre Dame shown in the last 2 decades? That they're legit contenders, right? They get to the college football playoff. They haven't won. They've been to the New Year's 6 bowl games. They haven't won any of those. So is Paul Finebaum probably, does he have a good track record? Well, of course. Well, if you're going to say the same thing over and over again, then
ultimately some of it's going to stick.
Yeah, it's most of it in this case is probably going to stick. But, I think instead of Paul Finebaum going down this road of constantly kind of, telling us why Notre Dame can't be successful or why they won't be successful and saying that their schedule is going to be the downfall of them, why not maybe go in the reverse direction? Why not maybe go down the path of what could happen if Notre Dame does, beat an Ohio State and USC in the same calendar year? And I think that would be more of a talking point than just going through the same notion or same pre-recorded speech every year of why Notre Dame isn't going to do X, Y, and Z, and maybe say what Notre Dame needs to do to get to X, Y, and Z, and what it means if Notre Dame can beat Ohio State and USC in the same calendar year. So to me, that's where I'm at on this kind of situation.
I think that USC's defense might like a word with Paul Finebaum anyway.
Yeah, they struggled against some San Jose State, huh?
I think it is still going to be an issue this year. And when you look at the physicality Notre Dame has up front, that's going to be a lot different matchup this year compared to last year. The battle in the trenches on both sides between Notre Dame and USC, and you can include Ohio State in that picture as well. And they just finally settled on a quarterback at Ohio State. Kyle McCord is going to be the quarterback. There could be that'll be game 4 for them. It'll be game 5 for Notre Dame. What is Kyle McCord going to look like in those first 3 weeks? Are there going to be doubts about it? We know that he's got receivers, But are those receivers going to have a quarterback who can get them the ball? We know that Notre Dame now has both receivers and a quarterback who can get them the ball. I think there are enough questions for both of those teams that you can't write Notre Dame off against either of those. Are they tough opponents? Of course they're tough opponents. You've got to have tough opponents if you're ultimately you need to be able to win those games if you're ultimately going to be a playoff team anyway.
Said, oh, Notre Dame doesn't play anyone. Notre Dame doesn't play anyone. Their schedule's too weak. And now it's, the flip side. Oh, their schedule's too hard. They're just going to get dominated. And that's what's going to take care of them this year.
That's exactly right. So people are fired up about the new game clock rules. The clock doesn't stop, of course, after first downs anymore. I was amazed at how much complaining I saw after the fact, even about the play clock. Now, I've got some data to back some of my stuff up. So I don't know if you want to hear it first, but I'll just ask you, do you buy or sell the new game clock rules after watching one Notre Dame football game?
I buy these. There's no reason. I'm a college football fan. I'm a Notre Dame fan. I will watch as much Notre Dame football as I possibly can, but that doesn't mean I want to be watching 4 to 5 hour games. And 5 hours, obviously, an exaggeration, but it was great to see and I think it was exaggerated for the Notre Dame Navy game because Notre Dame just kept getting first down after first down, not a lot of incomplete passes. And then Navy on the flip side is just running triple option after triple option after triple option. So that game, it's going to go by fast because, again, Notre Dame's scoring a lot of points. Navy is not scoring a lot of points, but they're not throwing incomplete passes. They're just running the ball. And so you're going to naturally see a faster pace of game. I don't mind the game getting over at 3.5 hours as long as the product is still good. If the product is not compromised by the clock rules, I have no issue with the new clock rules as long as again, the product isn't compromised. And I think you saw a lot faster game this past weekend than what you're going to see because you're going to see more incomplete passes. And Notre Dame's not just going to be able to roll through drives like they did on Saturday.
Steve Shaw is the national coordinator of college football officials, and they were anticipating 7 to 8 plays per game to be all that's eliminated with the new rule. But so it's like 7 to 8 plays per game over a 12-team regular season schedule. That's around 95 plays eliminated over the course of a season, which is it's like especially when they're expanding the college football playoff next year. That's part of why they want to do this. But like eliminate some of those extra plays, the jarring to because you're basically talking about close to a whole game being eliminated. Because I saw some data that was released from this week 0. The games, there were 7 games. They averaged 63.3 plays per team in 3 hours and 24 minutes. You compare that to last season, 68.7 plays per team, 3 hours and 27 minutes. So it is only a loss of 5 plays per team and 3 minutes per game. Now, here's what I found really interesting. Looking at Notre Dame Navy this year versus Notre Dame Navy last year. This year's game lasted 2 hours and 50 minutes compared to almost 3.5 hours last year. But when you look at the actual plays, this is crazy. Notre Dame ran 57 plays to Navy's 55 in this year's game. Last year, Notre Dame ran 55 plays to Navy's 59, and the game lasted a half an hour longer. So they ran basically the same amount of plays this year in a game that was 30 minutes shorter in comparison.
Yeah, and I think that goes kind of back into what I was talking about a little bit. We saw more incompletions, more punts, more drives stalled last year. I think that this game this year would have been, probably around the same, if not a little bit longer, had Notre Dame just not dominated the entire game. They got the stops defensively, and offensively, Sam Hartman had like 4 incomplete passes, the clock was just continuously rolling because of Notre Dame's dominance. And I think that happens regardless of clock rules or not.
Chi-Town says there's only 13 games. Why should we want to shorten them? I mean, do you really get that much more out of 5 plays per game? Like, are you really gaining anything as a fan with that? Like USC versus San Jose State, 3 hours and 26 minutes. One team ran 66 plays, the other ran 69. So I think that's, again, like when you're playing an option team, Navy's games are always going to be a little bit shorter because of all the running and there are many fewer incompletions. So there's always going to be a running clock when Navy has the football. But most games are still going to come up just around 3.5 hours, and each team is more likely than not going to run 60 plus plays. I think people are blowing it out of proportion. I just don't think I didn't think that the product was diminished at all on Saturday watching that game because the clock ran a little bit more and it came up just short of 3 hours. I didn't find anything bad about that at all. Notre Dame gave up 0 sacks against Navy after being sacked 5 times last year. Over under 19.5 sacks. I get a little gnat flying around in here. 19.5 sacks Notre Dame will allow this season.
You must have missed the bold prediction show because I took this at like under, I think 11. So this is a big under for me. I think 19.5 is really similar to what they ended up with last year.
21 is what they gave up last year.
Yeah. So, if you take the over, that's obviously 20, which would be one short of 21. I think they're drastically better just because of quarterback play this year, knowing when to get rid of the ball, knowing how to elude pressure, etc. And I think honestly, I think you're going to have a better offensive line as a unit this year as well. You got experienced tackles. You have the best tackle in the game. You have an experienced center, and you have 2 young guards, but they're tenacious and they know how to work hard. And when you have, veterans on either side of them, I think they're going to be a really good unit. So I'm actually going to put this, I think the proper number for me would be 10.5, meaning an average of like 1 sack per game. And I'm going to take the under on that. I think they end up somewhere right around 10 sacks when it's all said and done.
I think it's going to go under as well. There's obviously still a lot of football to play. Like what happens in this game, for example, how close does Tennessee State come? Are they able to make any plays in a game like this? And then obviously the level of competition is going to get better after that, but you've already got 1 game in hand with 0. So I agree. Maybe I should have said it a little bit lower, like not knowing what your number was going to be. I would have had to set it ridiculously low to really kind of make it any, really
you couldn't predict my 10.5 though.
Yeah. I still think 13, 14, like 1 per game type
That's
deal.
where I think it's going to come out to. I think it's going to be somewhere around 1 per game when it's all said and done.
Yeah, and this, just like we saw, it's not going to be limited to Navy. When you've got a veteran quarterback like Sam Hartman, so many of those guys almost want you to blitz them because that helps them kind of dictate where the ball should going. And
it's just man coverage and
shocker, there are hot route receivers now. Like we didn't always see that in the past, right?
Right.
By the way, I haven't seen a line yet. Have you been able to find a line on this weekend's game?
It's been weird because everyone, like every other game, has a line so far except this Notre Dame game. I don't know what their way. I think that they got cooked last week by the Notre Dame game, and I think they're being very cautious with.
They cooked themselves because all of their lines, as we talked, like whether it was Sam Hartman's season over unders, both passing yards and touchdowns, I think they're going to get taken to town by that. And the lines that they set in last week's game were horrible. Vegas did not have a real feel for Notre Dame. The only thing, the line started a little bit higher for the game over under. Not the line, but the points total over under was like 49.5 or something like that early on, 48.5, and then it dropped a little bit closer to game time, and I parlayed mine with a lower point total.
That was the thing to do.
Able to win. Yeah.
I
Vince
just wanted
got burned by the higher point total.
Did he?
Week.
Unfortunate for Vince.
Yes.
I hope everyone listened to our pregame show. I told you the best bet in that game was to take Sam Hartman's over on 2.5 touchdowns, and that was plus money. I made. It's
like they were giving away free money on Notre Dame with those numbers.
Man, I made a lot of money off of Sam Hartman's 4 touchdowns on Saturday. And you know what? I did the math too. It was like, I know it's only 1 game, but I think his over under on the season was like 26.5 or something like that. you take 27 and you subtract, 4 out of that because he's already got 4 touchdowns. So he's at 23. You divide that by 11. You're telling me Sam Hartman's not going to average 2 touchdowns per game the rest of the season? Get out of here. I told you that the money I put up on, I put up some bigger money on those Sam Hartman props. I wish I would have went more already. I already wish I would have went more.
Stymie said he took the alternate line at over 9.5 at plus 260. Did you do alternate? Did you
remember I told you about this too? So their regular season is 8.5, and that's at like minus 100, really close to even odds. And then I took a step up and I bumped it up to, like he said, the alternate line at 9.5. And basically what I did is I put enough down for if they win 9 games, but don't quite win 10 games, then it covers my bet on the next one. So I as long as they get to 9, I should cancel out. But if they get to 10, then I'm at like all, profits at that point.
Making it across the board.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So that I struggled with that though. I had to split it a little bit between those two because I thought I just kind of gave myself a security blanket on that.
So Jim Harbaugh, as you know, is suspended for the first 3 games of Michigan's season. They open up this week. Instead of appointing one coach to be in charge of all 3 of those games, he has a 4-coach plan for the 3 games. Defensive coordinator Jesse Minter is going to be the game day coach against East Carolina, and then special teams coordinator and his son, Jay Harbaugh, as well as running backs coach Mike Hart. They're going to split it up, first half, second half against UNLV, with each coach getting a half. And then offensive coordinator Sharon Moore, who actually has to serve a suspension of his own to start up the season, he's going to be in charge against Bowling Green. So what do you think of Jim Harbaugh's plan to split up these games and let a different coach be in charge of all of these games while he's serving his suspension?
I just need to put a disclaimer out there first and foremost. I hate Jim Harbaugh. I hate Michigan. So I had to remove the names of the program and the head coach when looking at this logistically. And I'm just going to say right now, it's just a pile of crap. And it's just the definition of Jim Harbaugh. He's always just doing too much, trying to outthink the room, trying to think he's, the cutting edge, philosophy on this, that, and the other. I just think it adds so much confusion for your players. Just announcing an interim head coach for the 4 games or 3 games, whatever it is, and just let it run its course. I don't understand why there's got to be a head coach for this half and that half and this game and that game. The only thing I could come up with is that it provided maybe some experience for some of his younger staff, right?
Right.
That's the only thing that I could think of that was the positive. Guys that he's getting head coaching experience for guys who otherwise haven't had the opportunity to do so. But I'm here to tell you, it's a pile of crap. And as a player, I think it just adds so many layers of confusion of like, who am I reporting to this week? Is this guy in charge? Is this guy in charge? I just think it's so stupid and it adds so many layers of confusion. And that's just Jim Harbaugh, always outthinking himself, always trying to be on the cutting edge. And I don't like that.
Yes. Like when I initially saw this, like Mike Vrabel with the Tennessee Titans during an exhibition game, one of their exhibition games, he let his defensive coordinator be the head coach for the game because he felt like it would get, like you were just talking about, give him some head coaching experience. So maybe it helped him out a little bit when he was doing interviews. It's like, okay, you could see that if you're Jim Harbaugh, but doing this, especially like you're going half to half, like
the half to half is really where I was like, are you kidding me right now? It's one thing game to game, but half to half.
It would be one thing if like your offensive coordinator got one game, your defensive coordinator got the other game, your special teams guy got the other game. But now you're even going half to half on this. And aren't you really just telling your team, well, it doesn't matter who the head coach is?
Well, that's ultimately what he's saying is these games don't matter because, we can just plug and place whoever we want at head coach. It doesn't matter. We're Michigan. These are crap opponents. We know we scheduled weak teams. We're just going to dominate them no matter what.
Exactly.
And I really hope it backfires on them. I really hope one of these teams, I don't think it's going to happen, but I really hope one of these low-level teams beats them.
Exactly. So Arizona State has self-imposed a 1-year bowl ban this season for recruiting violations that took place during the pandemic under now former head coach Herm Edwards. Is it fair or foul that the current team should have to face these consequences when they don't even have the same head coach in charge anymore?
Unfortunately, yes, they should have to suffer the consequences. And I do think it is unfortunate, but teams have to go under some sort of punishment or ban for their actions, right? And I know Herm Edwards was ultimately the main kind of catalyst for all of these, bans and situations and et cetera. But you can't just commit, stuff like that and then ultimately leave, right? And so I think that as much as it sucks, Arizona State has to go through their year of repercussions. And I think more so Herm Edwards should have a suspension from coaching as well. And I know he's probably not going to coach, but I think Herm Edwards himself deserves a lot of that, responsibility and some sort of punishment outside of, team punishment, because he's ultimately the person to blame for this kind of bigger overall mistake.
See, Stymie and Tommy both agree with me, and Chi-Town says that he would fine Herm Edwards. Just slap Arizona. Now, again, Arizona State is trying to get out in front of this, so it is a self-imposed thing. Like, you would think that just fine the school $250,000 and give it to charity or something. Like, does it really have to come to this when this happened during the pandemic is when all this happened. So it's 3 years old to begin with, and it's a coach that's not even in charge. And now you're punishing the current guys. I absolutely don't think that this current team, I think it's completely foul. I don't think that this current team should have to pay the consequences for something that happened 3 years ago. John makes a good point. Like,
it's a good year.
Arizona State has no chance of going to a bowl game. So maybe that's why they're doing it this year. It's
right.
Like, get out
a good year to self-impose, right?
Yeah. Like, would the NCAA say, and the NCAA is kind of going away from these kind of punishments anyway, the bowl bans and stuff like that. I don't know. I just, if they actually were to be bowl eligible, I agree. It feels wrong to punish the kids for something they were never involved with or participated in, and the head coach is not there anyway. So
I like Irish AJ's comment. The punishment should be let Drew Pine take every snap, no matter what.
Yes. I forgot this one from Tristan since it's Overreaction Tuesday. He says, this Saturday be like putting average Joes in the Olympics? I like that. That's a good one. All right. Well, that's going to do it for tonight. Another good one as we zipped right through tonight. Appreciate you being here. Of course, hit that like button when you're leaving tonight. Subscribe, rate, and review on your podcast platforms. We do appreciate you as the listenership and the viewership continues to climb on the Irish Breakdown platforms. Thanks again for being here, and we will talk to you tomorrow on IB Nation Sports Talk.